Watch this.
Halfway through the work week, here's what we've got for you ahead on the 208. A judge ruled this week that an Idaho law preventing the use of student IDs for voting, well, they ruled that that law is legal. So we're hearing from the student voters who filed the lawsuit, and we're getting an explanation from Idaho's Attorney General. Andrew Bartline's on the story. In the race to be Boise mayor, campaign ads continue to pop up on TV and online, and one ad, though, is drawing attention from both Mayor McLean and Mike Masterson. You asked about what this fuss is all about, so we'll dive into the world of political attack ads. A quagga conundrum continues. Wildlife managers are working to use special chemicals to save the environment from the invasive species. And yes, that does mean there will be some fish casualties. We've got some insight ahead on what the footprint of the quagga question appears to be. 208 starts now. A legal battle beginning at the beginning of July came to a quick decision. In fact, a judge stopped the proceedings before even going to a trial. Babe Vote filed a lawsuit against the state of Idaho after passing a pair of election integrity laws. Those laws removed student ID from the list of acceptable documentation to vote in Idaho. And the law requires anyone registering to vote to provide proof of residency to the county clerk's office. Now, Babe Vote alleged in their lawsuit that these laws discriminated against young people, high schoolers. The Attorney General's office says that their complaint doesn't have legs to stand on. Here's Andrew Bartline.
Participation at the voting polls. It's hardly an option for a select some.
It's just one of the easiest ways that you can make your voice heard in the political system.
Now made a little harder.
Yeah.
Just ask.
I think
Samya Sarin.
this makes it really hard for organizations like Babe Vote to help people complete voter registration because we can't collect and turn in people's documents to the county clerk's office.
Babe Vote is a youth voting advocacy group, and they say 2 new Idaho state laws are stopping them from registering late teens and early 20s on the voting rolls.
So it's harder for us to guide people.
Specifically because student IDs are no longer an acceptable document to vote, and those clipboards used to register new voters at events, those are no longer enough on their own either. Because unlike registering at the clerk's office, those clipboards loopholed a proof of residency.
So they just wanted to make it all consistent.
Idaho Attorney General Raul Labrador defends these laws.
You have to be a resident of the state of Idaho to vote.
And his office successfully preserved their position in district court.
And the judge agreed with us that there was not a claim that should go to trial in this case.
Babe Vote alleged the new laws discriminated against young people. Student IDs are popular and accessible for their demographic.
Most people receive a student ID when they're enrolled in high school or college. Other forms of ID, like a driver's license, they have a couple more extra steps that can become a burden to some young people.
But what's called a burden for some is a legal protection to others.
Well, this is actually something that the Constitution of Idaho specifically commits to the legislature and says this is for the legislature to decide. If that's the case, then the legislature should have, fairly wide range to do anything that's rational.
Why is it rational to stop student IDs from being accepted at the polls to vote?
There's no standard for student ID. A student ID that's made by my kid's high school is going to be different than the student ID made by U of I. They're going to have different standards for what you have to submit to get them.
And often, proof of residency and exactly where that residency is not part of the student ID process.
So we need to make sure that your vote is as protected as my vote. If I allow you to cheat in an election, then that's doing away with my vote.
All of these laws are kind of non-issues. They're like solutions to problems that don't exist.
When I look at the statement of purpose on House Bill 124, it says 104 voters used a student ID in the 2022 general election.
Yes.
104, what does that tell you?
It's not a lot of people.
But it's not zero. And for them, the new law created a free state-issued ID to ensure people who can legally vote can get the documentation to vote.
The state bent over backwards to give people the opportunity to vote in the state.
Ruling these claims for dismissal.
Yeah, I'm an attorney with Perkins Coie.
It's a loss for Matt Gordon and Babe Vote.
We're disappointed by the decision, and we are, thinking about and evaluating what the next steps will be on this case.
Because the answer isn't enough for this sum, where the barriers and burden are still in their way.
It requires applicants to submit a certified birth certificate or a current passport, which not everyone has a current passport, and the applicant can't have held a driver's license for the last 6 months. So the free ID is not a solution to most people.
Babe Vote's attorney tells me he's currently seeking all his options right now. He doesn't believe this fight is over quite yet. And part of that could be an appeal process. Again, he's looking through all his options currently. And Joe, the state legislature does have the right to regulate this. That's part of what the judge decided. And so it is legal to regulate things that are reasonable. And so that was part of the question that I asked the AG's office is, why is this reasonable? Well, they say that those student IDs just don't have to have proof of residency tied to them, which ideally, people should be voting in the district of which they live.
And I know there are maybe people watching this story saying, you know, how could I go get one of those free state IDs? And I know we didn't have time to get into it in your story today, but if you go to ktvb.com, our team has done some really lengthy coverage on this issue, and we have a whole guide on how you can go get one of those free state IDs if you are an affected student.
Yep.
So, all right, Andrew Bartline reporting for us here on the 208. Thank you, Andrew. Well, speaking of voting and elections, let's talk about the Boise mayoral race. Let's crack the fingers. 34 days until Election Day in the city of Trees, and the top two candidates in the field in terms of fundraising support and public interaction, retired Boise Police Chief Mike Masterson and incumbent Boise Mayor Lauren McLean. So something interesting between those two campaigns. Both are speaking out on a political ad that you might have seen on social media or online. We previously told you about the pro-McLean PAC named Boise Fact Check. Their ads on television tout support for the mayor. Now, another political action committee has entered the fold as well. They call themselves Building Industry Group of the Treasure Valley, Big TV. Now, they are showing support for Mike Masterson, and they're responsible for a collection of ads in this race and other area races actually as well. But one of their ads drew criticism from both the McLean campaign and the Masterson team. Here's some of the 30-second ad. It's a pretty standard attack ad from the PAC. But right now, we're going to roll you the section that a lot of people are talking about.
McLean's contempt for our police, McLean's extremist social agenda, and McLean's high-density low-income housing project.
All right, so did you catch the middle frame there? It's right here on your screen. We paused it. It's a shot of Mayor McLean at the Boise Pride Festival parade. And the bold label there, Lauren McLean, extremist socialist agenda. Now, the inference being here that supporting LGBTQ folks is an extreme thing to do. And many people spoke out on this. The Mike Masterson campaign, for example, quickly put out a statement on the ad. He said, quote, "I want to make it clear to every Boisean that I had nothing to do with the creation of the ads, and I do not condone them. Boise faces serious challenges and deserves more serious leadership than we have seen in the past 4 years. My candidacy is about restoring independent, transparent, and collaborative leadership to City Hall and bringing people together, not condemning our LGBTQ community." Statement adds on that these ads do not reflect the values of Mike Masterson, and he strongly disavows the commercials. So the McLean campaign put out a reaction as well to the ads being put out by, again, the Building Industry Group Treasure Valley, both in a statement and in a Twitter thread. Here's basically what Mayor McLean had to say. She said, "I've heard concerns from many about the negative campaigning from the opposition, so I'm chiming in. In the thousands of convos I've had over the past few years, one thing seems certain: Boiseans aren't interested in relitigating the same old grudges and old elections." So back to the Political Action Committee, the one that put the adverts out. The controversial one has been replaced with the same script, but new video in the section about an extreme McLean agenda. Oh yeah, it's McLean, not McLean. Just a note that if you're running attack ads, make sure you get their name right. Or maybe not, because then you give them name recognition. I don't know, it's not my meal to cook. Either way, though, the PAC, not Masterson, they put out the ad to be clear, and the candidates, they are set to engage in a series of events over the next month, including beginning tomorrow at a public forum. But we will have a debate right here on KTVB for you coming up on October 24th at 6 p.m. We're set to host the debate between McLean and Masterson, so start thinking about what you want to hear about from the candidates. I will be collecting community questions digitally, and we'll also be hitting the streets of Boise soon for an On the Street segment, so if you see us, come say hi. We want to know, not generally, not topic-wise, what specific questions do the people of Boise have? All right, there is so much going on around this world of the 208. Traffic safety, steelheads, sheep. What more could you want? We got the 411 for you. This is Abby Davis. You might have heard the quagga conundrum
people
continues.
In our community that add a lot of value, and they make Boise and the Treasure Valley a better place. And when we lose them to preventable crashes, our community loses something really important.
This year, Boise has had the most pedestrian and bicycle-related fatalities in history, so the city is taking action. Tomorrow is the very first Traffic Fatality Review Task Force meeting. The task force includes the Ada County Highway District, City of Boise, and Boise Police. They'll analyze serious injury and fatal crashes, all with the hopes of improving safety. The task force plans to meet quarterly and immediately after every fatal crash. Normally, the meetings will be closed to the public, but they're inviting everyone to their first meeting this Thursday at 2 p.m. at the Mary Ann Jordan Council Chambers in Boise City Hall. Otherwise, you can submit traffic concerns to ACHD's Tell Us program. Speaking of safety, you can get a free bike light right now from the City of Boise and its public safety partners. They'll be at Kristen Armstrong Park until 7 tonight for the free bike light giveaway. 7 at night, you say? Won't it be getting dark then? Exactly, that's the point. You have a cool new light to use if you biked there or for future evenings as we ride into the darker months of the year. Darker days means colder weather. And that means ice hockey season. The Idaho Central Arena is ready. Crews prepped, mixed, and laid the ice before they painted it for the season. The first home game is Friday, October 20th. And KTVB is partners with the Idaho Steelheads, so you can watch their games on 24/7. All 36 games, including playoff games, will be broadcasted in the Boise and Twin Falls markets. Here's how to watch. Idaho's very own 24/7 is available free over the air on Channel 7.2 or 7-2, depending on your TV brand. It is also available on Sparklight Cable on Channel 13 and Cox Cable on Channel 128. You can scan the QR code on your screen to learn more. We've also got all of this information on our website, ktvb.com. Do you like fall leaves and sheep? Then we've got the perfect Idaho festival for you. The iconic Trailing of the Sheep Festival starts today in and around Ketchum. It's been a part of Basque culture in Idaho for decades, herding sheep from southern Idaho to the Wood River Valley and back again, all on foot. Every fall, 1,500 sheep make the trip. Then hundreds of people line the streets of downtown Ketchum to watch their migration and hear stories from local sheep ranchers and herders. The festival goes through this Sunday and is jam-packed with music, workshops, good food, and so much more. It's a party you won't want to miss. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Abby Davis.
You might have heard the quagga conundrum continues. See, even without Brian Holmes, we have alliterations on the program. Anyway, ahead on this Wednesday, we have a look at the impact of operations to exterminate quagga. We took your questions on the topic of fish mortality, I should say, to the experts. How are you doing this week? Hopefully everyone's doing all right. We love to hear from you, but, mostly about the show, other things too. But if you do have some thoughts, send them our way. Our phone number, 208-321-5614. Please be sure to include hashtag the 208 with your message. We're looking for comments, story ideas, anything really.
autumn has arrived. Look at those gorgeous pictures of the leaves changing color across Idaho. And here's our fall foliage outlook as far as those colors really popping over the next week or so. I know there's a lot of colors going on here. So where you start seeing kind of this black or dark brown, that's where the foliage is almost past its peak. But this darker maroon color, which is much of our Central Mountain locations, those fall colors right now at their prime, and you get into the lower elevations, we're not quite there yet, so still a couple weeks to go till we really see all those leaves change color. But still, if you're looking to maybe hit the road, do some leaf peeping over the next couple of days, look at the forecast for it. Absolutely gorgeous in the west central mountains. Temperatures tomorrow into the upper 60s. We'll hit the 70s for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Likely still warm on Monday, but we start seeing the leading edge of a change in our weather pattern coming in late Monday that'll knock us back down to cooler than average conditions by next Tuesday and Wednesday. So enjoy the warmth while we have it. It's a really gorgeous autumn day in Boise. We're at 68 degrees, very light winds out of the northwest and crystal clear skies overhead. As far as those high temperatures so far today, we've been up to 73 in Ontario, 70 for Caldwell and Nampa, mid 60s for all of you in the Magic Valley, and then 62 in Stanley. That is a really lovely Wednesday for early October in Stanley. And across the northwest, there's really not a whole lot happening. A nice quiet day coming our way, a nice quiet week, in fact, courtesy of high pressure that will continue amplifying eastward over the next couple of days. And the axis, or the main part of this ridge, will be over southwest Idaho Saturday, Sunday, and on into Monday. But by Monday, it starts to flatten out just a little bit. So Sunday and Monday do look to be our warmest days of the extended period. But hey, how about some fall football on the blue? Look at the conditions for the Boise State game against San Jose State on Saturday. 77 degrees at kickoff at 6 o'clock, into the mid 60s by the end of the game. So maybe no jacket necessary, but of course the sun will set during the game. It sets about 7:20 these days, so maybe that extra layer just for after sunset, but I don't think you'll need it at the start of the game. Really beautiful weather. All right, here's that full 7-day forecast. Let's see what we're in for the next little bit. 73 tomorrow. That's just a degree above average. Warmer still on Friday, and we'll continue to add some warmth each and every day through Sunday on into Monday. So 80 degrees. That is unusually warm for early October. If you have outdoor plans, it'll be ideal for all of that. Really gorgeous. However, like I like to say this time of year, what goes up almost always will come down, and that's what happens. By Tuesday, we have that next system that will come in. We do have some rain that will move back into the picture on Tuesday with some scattered showers, and then temperatures cool off into the mid 60s by next Wednesday. But still, until then, we have a really beautiful fall forecast.
At this point, we are expecting some significant fish loss. What that will truly look like is still yet to be determined.
Natrix is now flowing into the Snake River to kill off invasive quagga mussels that could cause a potential crisis for Idaho. The Idaho State Department of Agriculture started their treatment just yesterday. And as you can imagine, we've gotten a lot of great viewer questions since we first talked about the treatment plan earlier this week, including about fish. But first, let's lay the groundwork, starting with JR's question. JR in Middleton asked, where exactly is the Twin Falls Dam? I'm a native Idahoan and I have never heard of it. Good question. So when we say the treatment is starting at the Twin Falls Dam, we mean the Twin Falls Falls, not to be confused with the Shoshone Falls, which they think the origin of the quagga mussels is. Now, technically, Twin Falls is a dam because there is actually a dam there that they shut off one of the two falls. So really, it's not a Twin Falls anymore, but that's a story for another day. The quagga mussel treatment starts at the Twin Falls Dam and goes for about a 6-mile stretch to Niagara Springs. And then that's where the Natrix treatment will break down for the next 16 miles downriver until it isn't effective anymore. So back to the fish. A lot of you are asking about the sturgeon. We love sturgeon, and they're being impacted by the copper-based treatment called Natrix. So Chuck in Boise wrote to us saying, what about the sturgeon? Females don't start breeding until they are in their early 20s. Unless older sturgeon are restocked, they will effectively become extinct. So yes, sadly, the treatment will kill off a mix of fish, including game fish like sturgeon, smallmouth bass, and panfish. But they don't know how many just yet. So the treatment prevents the fish from being able to take oxygen out of the water and into their bloodstream rather than simply poisoning them. So some fish will actually just swim down river for safety if they detect it. And KTVB's KTVB's Jude Binkley asked Idaho Fish and Game what their plan is for repopulating the fish, and they said it all depends on how many of the fish die.
We essentially came out here, electrofished, and sampled approximately 2,000 fish that we put hole punches in their tail, so that if we do see these fish as mortality, we can get a ratio to marked and unmarked fish, and that's how we develop our population estimates.
With the pre-treatment population estimates, they will rebuild impacted fish populations, including sturgeon, through translocations and stockings from hatcheries like C.J. Stryker Reservoir. And finally for you, Paul asks, where did the mussels come from? Well, that is the multi-million-dollar question. Short answer, Paul, we don't really know, and it's not good, but hopefully we'll figure it out one day. Time will tell. All right, we got some of your comments coming up right after the break. All right, we got some of your comments here. Let's see, we just, look at that. That's magic, by the way. You can't teach that. All right, this person says, Babe Vote should pressure the legislature to create a procedure for students to easily register to vote. If they take away the use of student ID, they should replace it with something else. How about sending clerks to the schools? So, Carol, I will say that the Secretary of State's office, they were trying to have a remedy for this law that was passed by the legislature, and those are those free IDs that are available to people across Idaho. It's not just for students. For some reason, you don't have a state-issued ID. You can go get one of these for free. There are a few things you need to know about it, but if you go to ktvb.com, we've got some resources there for you to be able to figure out exactly what ID is best for you. Okay, this person says, what teenager doesn't have a driver's license? And that's a great question, and this is actually something that we've researched over the last 6 months. There are plenty of students that A, don't have the interest in getting a driver's license, or sometimes it's a financial barrier. So you can't just assume that all teenagers have a driver's license, some of them wanting to vote but don't drive, so that's where this free state ID is really a key. This person says, can birds or wildlife be harmed by the poison they are going to use to kill the quagga snails? Quagga mussels, and to be honest, they're concentrating really on what's going on in the river, in the water there. We have not heard about the impacts on birds, but we will ask about that, and we can circle back if there's a good answer for you. This person says, who is paying for the Snake River cleanup, state or federal? That river is a federal river. Also, do we know if they can travel upriver and infect our state rivers? The quagga mussels, they kind of have the area that is really laid out, so they know where they're looking in terms of who's paying for it. We understand the state of Idaho is paying for this, but if that changes, we'll let you know. All right, 208, we'll return tomorrow. See you then.